In this problem, they give us that two of the solutions for x in this equation are selected at random. Now let's stop right there. We've got x squared and we've got x cubed. So how do we find the solutions? Well, anytime you've got x squared or x cubed, what you want to do is you want to get everything equal to 0. So everything all has to be on one side. So I'm going to rewrite this as x cubed, and I'm going to take the 5x squared and subtract it over to the other side. So minus 5x squared minus 9x, and I'm going to add the 45 over to the other side so that it equals 0. Now, in order to find the solutions, what we have to do is we have to factor this. And what we have to do is we have to do what's called factor by grouping. So we take the first two, and we take the second two. And so with the first two, we ask, what do these two have in common? They have x squared in common. And if we take out x squared, if we factor x squared out of these two, we're left with x minus 5. If we look at these two, we ask, what do these two have in common? They have negative 9 in common. Now, they could say positive, but anytime your leading coefficient is negative, you want to factor out the negative. So minus 9, and then we're left with x minus 5. So now what we have is we have two terms. So we went from 4 to 2, and both of these terms have an x minus 5 quantity in common. So we can factor again and say, well, let's take an x minus 5 out of this term, take an x minus 5 out of this term, and what's left? Well, what's left is x squared minus 9. And x squared minus 9, that can also factor into x minus 3 and x plus 3. And then we still have x minus 5. So this is the same as this equation, which is the same as this. So now the question is, what are the solutions? Well, the solutions are the values of x that make it 0. And so we have three quantities that we're multiplying. Now, if we end up with 0, what does that tell us? That tells us that one of these three was 0. So what value of x makes this 0? 3. What value of x makes this 0? Negative 3. What value makes this 0? 5. So these are our three solutions. 3, negative 3, and 5. All right. Now back up at the top, it says two of these solutions are selected at random. These two are the solutions for y in the equation ay squared minus b plus by plus c, where a, b, and c are integers with no common factors, and a is positive. It's greater than 0. Determine the probability that b is less than 0. Okay. So basically what we're doing is now we're taking these three and picking two at random. All right. So let's say for our first one, y is going to equal 3 and y is going to equal negative 3. So that means it's going to be y minus 3 times y plus 3 equals 0. So let's expand this out. Y squared plus 3y minus 3y equals, minus 9 equals 0. So here the plus 3y and the minus 3y cancel. So here we're just left with y squared minus 9 equals 0. So that's our first outcome. Now for our second, let's say we pick y equals 3 and y equals 5. So that means it's going to be y minus 3 and y minus 5 equals 0. So when we expand this out, we get y squared minus 5y minus 3y plus 15 equals 0. So that simplifies to y squared minus 8y plus 15 equals 0. There's our second, and now we need our third. That's going to be y equals negative 3 and y equals 5. So when we multiply this out, we get y plus 3 and y minus 5 equals 0. So y squared minus 5y plus 3y minus 15 equals 0. So then y squared minus 2y minus 15 equals 0. So we picked two of these at random, and we either got y squared minus 9 equals 0 y squared minus 8y plus 15 equals 0, y squared minus 2y minus 15 equals 0. Now, the question is, determine the probability that b, that's the number in front of y, that's the coefficient of y, is less than 0. So here, b is negative 2, so that counts. Here, b is negative 8, that counts. Here, b is 0, because there is no y term. So only 2 out of the 3 have a negative value for b. So the probability of this happening is 2 out of 3. There's our answer, and we're done.